Alcine, and I'm a participant in the breed barn at Rhinebeck Sheep and Wool, and I'm going to introduce you to Gotland sheep. So I think our first stop will be going into the barn. Hi, here we are in our barn, and I have our sheep separated. I have the ewe lambs. Now they have been pulled away from their moms, and the moms are in the back pasture, and we'll go to them later. They're with some of the older sheep that are retired, and there's two wethers also in here. Around the corner we have 4 of the ram lambs from this year. They'll be leaving here shortly. And then there's also a white ram lamb out there that is a white Gotland, and I'll explain that to you in a little bit. But the first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the breed. The breed does come from Sweden, and it's from an island of Gotland, which is off the east coast, and it's in the Baltic Sea. We can take a ferry from Sweden to Gotland, and it's a small enough island that you can see everything within 2 to 3 days. Go from one tip to the other. There's Gotland sheep all over Gotland, and of course on mainland now there is Gotland sheep. The Gotland sheep came from the Gut, which was there originally. Those sheep had horns. They were multiple colors, and they had longer tails. Their fleece was not as nice. I would say it had no crimp, no curl. They wanted to bring a sheep into the area that had a one look, and so 7 farmers put it together and crossed it with 2 different breeds, the Gut, and came up with the Gotland. And they're each year with trying to breed for the best, they came up with the totally black faces, black legs, a short tail, and very curly gray, and it went from a light to a medium to a dark, and also a black fleece. Their legs have no hair, and they're naturally short-tailed, which makes it very easy. So now let me introduce you to some of the lambs. So these are some of the lambs that were born this spring. These are all ewes in this room. This is one of the older ewes that is retired. Her name is Camilla. When we started out with 7 different breeds, and they were crossed. And Camilla came from a Leicester Longwool. Her grandmother was 50% Leicester Longwool and 50% Gotland. So you can see she's a bigger ewe. Now her great-grandchildren who are here today, and the percentage of them are closer to the real Gotland. Gotlands are usually about 120 to 150 pounds. They're more of a smaller breed, whereas you can see the Leicester Longwool, where Camilla's come from. She's a taller. And so when we started, you have to, you can't bring the sheep into the United States. You can bring the semen. And so our sheep were artificially inseminated. We started in 2010, and in the fall of 2010, we started artificially inseminating our first 7. They were all a year and a half, and the outcome of those, some of those sheep, like her mother then was 68% Gotland, and her mother was also gray body, even though her great-grandmother was white. And Camilla now is just retired. She's no longer producing any babies. She just stays here on the farm and enjoys her life. There's another older ewe here that was one of my first triplets, and she was also born in 2011. So the ear tags on these girls, this one lost hers yesterday. The ear tags, I always ear tag my girls on their right ears, and when we AI'd late this year. We AI'd in December 12th, and so our first offspring started coming May 1st, and those babies all have a white ear tag. And then after we AI'd, we waited 2 weeks, and then we brought in our backup ram, and then the 2 weeks was a little bit of a break there, and then our second batch of ewes that didn't take from AI delivered And those ewes have red ear tags. And so we know who the father was. All not to know is one of those ewe. So Gotlands are noted for their curl and their luster. And if I can get Annalise over here. And now this little ewe, she hasn't turned too much yet. She still has a lot of, they're really dirty. I apologize. They were out last night. They're, if you part away their fleeces, you can see the luster and the shine. Come on, girls, you want to say hello? If I can get one of the girls to stay still, and you can get a closer shot. Whoops. Come on. They're looking around the corner. Come on. It's okay. There you can see her curl and her shine. So we'll be shearing here in about 3 weeks. A lot of these girls will be going to their farms. Now this little girl, she still has not turned much silver. She has some black in her. Actually, I'm keeping this ewe because black yarn really sells well for me. And I try to use lamb fleeces for my yarn. And the older ewes, when they're shorn, a lot of their fleeces go for people that make rugs or do felting projects. So they all have a purpose depending on their age. Of course, the ewe lambs I'm keeping for this year, their fleeces will be the softest. So now we can go out and look at the ram lambs that we kept. 3. Okay, these are our ram lambs from this year that we kept intact. We had 12 boys, and as when the mothers are lambing, we put them in a maternity pen. They're with the mothers until I can get their ear tags in. And right before I put their ear tag in, we get a sample of their skin. It's like it looks like a paper punch. It goes into a cup, and that gets sent to Gene Check out in Colorado. Gene Check lets us know their genetic testing. The word scabies is a sheep disease, and so to keep scabies away from your farm, you want your rams to produce an R in their blood work. And these 4 boys are QR, and then the white one is an RR. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the breed standard for the white. This little boy is a QR. As you can see, his don't be bashful. As you can see, he has the gray fleece, the black face, no white markings is what is the most desired. You can have a little bit of white on top of their heads, but the breed standard in Sweden prefers them to be all black. And so I try to follow those rules. They do not want any kind of white on their faces, around their cheeks, around their eyes. You can have a little bit around their mouth. It's called sugar lips. So there is a black ram that's a little younger than these other 3, but he's starting to turn gray, but he's still very dark. The breed standard in Sweden is they allow you to have white and different shades of gray and then a black. Here in the United States, we just allow the grays and the blacks. And I think over time, maybe, I think they're more afraid that somebody will allow a white that has spots. So for right now, he can be recorded, but just not registered. And I'm hoping he's hold still here so you can see his fleece. So these boys are separated from their moms and from the babies now because they're showing a lot of interest, even though they're so young. There you can see his curl and of course his shine. When they're wet, they just shine so much. So inside here you can see the pen. There is 4 ewes in there that will be bred this year for the first time. They're over 98% Gotland. And that's one of them there that's looking at one of the boys. And Sophia is one of the retired ones, and the rest of the other three, I believe, or there's one right there yet. And she'll be bred for the first time. I always wait till they're about a year and a half, and they will be AI'd. And then when they deliver, they'll be 2 years old. So I think what we could do now is go to the back pasture and you can meet some of the moms.